This video is going to be a little different from other videos I've made. It's not a review, it's not a critique, it's not an analysis, it's not a rewrite, it is my headcanon. And I've got some notes here that I'm going to refer to, so excuse me if I sometimes don't look directly at the camera. I'm cheating. Now first, what is headcanon? Well, let me see. Headcanon refers to something that you imagine to be true about a character, even though no information supporting that is actually in the movie. Sometimes you have your own explanation for a character's strange motivation, or you are filling in missing pieces to make sense of the story, or fixing holes in the plot. I tried to make my headcanon fit in with what is actually on screen. So here is an example. Okay? Wonder Woman 1984 polarized audiences and critics. 58% on Rotten Tomatoes and 60 out of 100 on Metacritic showed critics' responses were very mixed. As for audiences, CinemaScore reported a B+, and PostTrack had 78% of viewers giving it a positive grade, with 67% saying they would recommend it. Now, those were much lower than the iconic hero's first outing, and the box office was much less too. Wonder Woman, which came out in 2017, brought in over $800 million worldwide. But the 2020 sequel generated about $170 million. Of course, with the majority of theaters closed due to the pandemic, we'll never know how much it would have made if COVID hadn't, messed everything up for cinema goers. But we can see that this film was performing at a lower standard than the first one. So here's a brief synopsis of Wonder Woman 1984. Diana is active as a hero in 1984, but keeping out of the media and not known to the public. She still misses Steve. She befriends a new colleague, Barbara, at the museum where they both work. Barbara is awkward and lacks confidence, but Diana sees past that and encourages Barbara to come out of her shell more. Meanwhile, Maxwell Lord steals an artifact from the museum called a dreamstone, which grants wishes. And this is established indirectly prior to his stealing of this dreamstone. For example, someone working in the museum wished he had a cup of coffee while inadvertently touching the stone. Luckily, there was an extra cup of coffee from someone's order. Wish instantly granted. But he burns his tongue on the hot coffee. You see, every wish comes with a downside, and the person making the wish might not recognize it. It is a monkey's paw, which gets brought up a lot during the movie. Diana subconsciously wishes that Steve were still in her life, and Barbara wishes she were as awesome as her new friend Diana. And they are in proximity to the stone when these thoughts and feelings are occurring. These become wishes. What are the downsides? Well, anyway, Max wants to be the stone. So after stealing it, that is his wish. He wants to be the stone. And the stone crumbles into dust, and he gains the power to grant people's wishes in exchange for things he wants or needs. Now we have our antagonist, and hijinks ensue. So here's where my headcanon starts to come in, regarding the downsides of the wishes. Now, most viewers and critics find Barbara's downside is that she's losing her humanity. This is not expressed overtly in the film, but that is how people interpreted the downside of her wish. I disagree. This is my headcanon. As Barbara becomes more and more like Diana, she gains the powers of Wonder Woman too. Now, she doesn't know Diana is Wonder Woman, but she wants to be like her friend Diana. She wants to be as amazing as her friend Diana. So naturally, that includes her Wonder Woman persona. Barbara already had the beauty, just not the confidence. So she didn't gain beauty as part of her wish. It's something else. It's the powers of Wonder Woman. Later, after fighting with Wonder Woman and recognizing her as her friend Diana, she is unsatisfied with being a copy of someone great. She wants to be unique. She takes back her wish in exchange for a new one, which Max is willing to grant her, and becomes an apex predator, a human version of her favorite animal, the cheetah. So according to my headcanon, if loss of humanity wasn't the downside to her original wish, which was granted by the stone itself, not by Max, then what was the downside? Well, as she became more and more like Diana, she was stealing Diana's powers, siphoning them away from her friend. That is how I see it. To become more like her friend, she is destroying her friend. That is the downside. And this is possibly her only friend. That's the downside. But she never recognizes it in the course of the movie. And that's the tragedy. A lot of these people, and as they explain throughout history, don't see the downside of their wish, or they see it too late and tragedy befalls them. Now, for Diana. A man appears where she works. He's not someone that she recognizes physically, but soon she knows that it is Steve. Somehow he has returned. She's overjoyed. She learns that he is inhabiting the body of some man, has basically usurped his life. But she's fine with it. She has her one and only love back, and that is what she has long wished for. It is a complete reversal of their relationship in the first film. He is the fish out of water. He is the one who doesn't know the rules of this new world that he's found himself in. It's about 70 years into the future after he died. Yet, he is still the best pilot ever, successfully flying a jet fighter when he has never seen this kind of technology before. It's like a dream. This is the ideal Steve that she's missed, that she's built up like a fantasy in her mind over 70 years. Well, here's where the controversy comes in. Diana seemingly has no problem robbing Steve's new host body of his own life, putting the host body in peril, and off-screen, of course, having intimate relations with this unknown man's host body without any consent from the original owner of the body. And those are valid points. As the film progresses, her powers wane. Her strength fades. Knowing that she has made a wish, and that the wishes come with a price, a la the monkey's paw, she wrongly figures that this price is the loss of her abilities. This is my headcanon. This version of Steve thinks so too, so they have a tearful goodbye, and Diana turns away from her one and only love, and her powers gradually return. But as I said, I disagree. Here comes my headcanon. People don't know the downside, or they recognize it too late. Barbara stopped wanting to be like Diana and chose to become someone unique, powerful in her own way. So according to my headcanon, this choice to become the cheetah coincided with the return of Diana's powers. Since Barbara's first wish was cancelled, the price was cancelled at the same time. Diana's actual price was not the loss of her powers, but the loss of her purity, the loss of her status as someone that humanity should aspire to be. Because of her own loneliness and selfishness, she was willing, at least for a time, to steal a man's life away to satisfy her own wants and needs. That was not Steve returned. It was her vision of Steve, this perfect Steve. But with her having the upper hand and showing him around a world that he is unfamiliar with, as he did for her, and it was her vision of him that was the best pilot ever, this was not the actual Steve. It was just her dream of Steve. Steve never actually returned. There's nothing in the film that contradicts my headcanon. Barbara got stronger as Diana became weaker. Barbara gave up that power and Diana was restored. My headcanon just changes the costs of the wishes. and uses the timing of events to give Diana's character an out, a way to escape the controversy that surrounded this part of the plot. She never understood the actual price of her wish, and she didn't learn the right lesson. That is, I guess, part of the tragedy. But if only the film had mentioned something like that too. They could have avoided unnecessary controversy brought about by not thinking that aspect of the plot fully through. Anyway, I liked Wonder Woman 1984 much more than its predecessor, to be honest. And I know that makes me part of a tiny minority. However, my headcanon makes it work, for me at least. So if you agree, if you disagree, if you have other ideas, any comments you like, let me know in the comment section, if you want. And thank you for watching.